When I bet, I like getting something back, win or lose. That's why we're excited to announce our new partnership with Fanatics Sportsbook. It's the only sportsbook that gives you fan cash when you bet, win or lose. Use fan cash on all Knicks, NBA, or other fan gear, as well as bonus bets, collectibles, and more. It's the most rewarding place for fans to place their bets. Download the Fanatics Sportsbook app now and let the fan cash flow. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts residents, call 800-327-5050. New York residents, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland residents, visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
All right. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. I am Jonathan Macri, once again joined by my buddy DJ Zullo, who I'm very happy to have here to talk this one through with, and we will start to do that in a moment. I will just open by saying, needless to say, very different tenor from the last postgame a couple of days ago. This loss was hard. This loss was hard, I would say, for three reasons. It was hard because your process as a team, I think if you are the Knicks, you look at how they went about this game in general, certainly on the offensive end, and you have some significant questions about that, which we will talk about. I think you look at the execution at times, putting the process aside and looking at how the Knicks actually went about doing what they did. And I think there was a bit to be desired there. And then on top of all that, in a game you did not deserve, did not deserve to win. You did not deserve to be in this game because of the issues with the process and with the execution. But you were in it at the end, despite all of that. And the Knicks, look, they deserve credit for getting back into the game in the fourth quarter. That is a bit of a silver lining. We'll talk about the comeback that almost was. But I don't know how many more games you are ever going to get where you play a team that, I know they're not a great shooting team, but they're a mediocre shooting team. And they gave it to you on a silver platter in terms of missing everything from three. And you had it at the end. You had a chance. You gave yourself a chance, and you could not take advantage. So this game, for as much as it was a game that the Knicks did not deserve to win, and that maybe should make it feel better in some ways, it was almost like three losses in one. And we're going to get into the biggest X's and O's stuff in a second, starting with a certain center. But before we do, I will just turn it to DJ and ask, what are your initial impressions?
Yeah, I thought you encompassed it really well there. The Pistons came out in a way which I guess we all should have foreseen. The Knicks should have foreseen it in terms of their aggression, their physicality. The Knicks didn't respond great to it, and it's sort of a microcosm of what our biggest criticism of this team has been throughout the year. Now, as you mentioned, to the Knicks' credit, they flipped that in the second half and then in the fourth quarter, specifically in terms of matching or even exceeding Detroit's aggression. But the way the Pistons sort of attacked the Knicks, and we'll get into it, disallowed the Knicks to defend the way they did in game one. And listen, the Knicks have the talent advantage on paper, but that is in a vacuum and doesn't have physical, strong, athletic, young, hungry players taking you out of everything you want to do. And I thought the free throw stuff was a little overblown, but is part of the equation here. But listen, this is a Piston team I thought was going to take the Knicks to the brink in this series. I thought this was going to go 7. I haven't shifted off that. Didn't shift off that after game 1. They do things physically that take the Knicks out of their comfort zones. And because the Knicks aren't blessed with the sort of ball handlers outside of Jalen Brunson to attack that sort of aggressive defense, it can lend itself to where the Knicks look like they're moving and stuck in mud and just aren't providing any sort of counter to the way the Pistons are defending. I think that's where some of the deficiencies of the Knicks lie. But this was a tough one. It's a tough one to swallow. It's a tough one because of the Knicks getting back in the game. Just as a fan watching it, it seemed like the Pistons were unraveling. And of course, there's always a guy that you don't think about. It was campaign in game 1, Dennis Schroeder here in game 2.
Yeah, I mean, role players win playoff games.
Mm-hmm.
So let's stick with the story of the game. I think for like most fans is going to be the physicality, and I'm curious. I think there's going to be a diversity of opinions on that. I think there will be some people that latch on to the free throw discrepancy, which the way I think you characterized it, or we characterized it in the first half, which is that the Knicks, there were calls the Knicks could have gotten that they didn't seem like they got any of them. Whereas the calls that the Pistons were getting, I think it was easy to complain because the Knicks weren't getting any calls, but you looked at a lot of those calls, and as you were calling them out as they were happening, a lot of them were fouls. That said, in the fourth quarter, those tables turned and the Knicks started getting a lot of calls. And, I think the more interesting aspect of the physicality stuff to me is how New York allowed that approach to take them out of their game. And part of that is, as you just said, the fact that the Knicks do not have another traditional advantage creator on the roster besides Jalen Brunson in terms of an off the dribble advantage creator. And this is the part that I like, and this is going to lead right into the Towns stuff, because I think the Towns part of it is the biggest X's and O's thing. They were not doubling Brunson, right? In this game?
Yeah. No, they played him straight up.
And then so Brunson at that point either had two choices. It was, okay, I'm going to either shoot it or try to draw contact, which he obviously tried very hard to do and seemed to take great pleasure in finally fouling Asar Thompson out, which I thought that was a fascinating reaction from him. Or pass it back out. And when he did, you always talk, DJ, about winning the closeout. And how many closeouts did the Pistons win in this game? Like all of them. Yeah.
Almost all of them. And part of that is Brunson getting into the paint, but not getting into the deep paint where your rotations are then going to be longer. So him getting into the non-restricted area paint zone and then spraying the ball out, that closeout is going to be much cleaner, much easier for your rotation, for your help defense. Yep. And I think that's where, if you boil it down to one thing, process this, like think back to that game. How many times did Jalen Brunson or any Nick really in a half court setting get to the deep paint and cause a rotation? It happened a handful of times, but not enough to make the Pistons pay for how they were defending, which was showing immense amount of bodies at Jalen Brunson. The Josh Hart piece of it, just to get ahead of it, is part of the equation there. Now, it's a complex equation because, listen, there was moments in that game where Josh Hart was the only Nick matching or even sometimes exceeding how Detroit was playing that basketball game in terms of the aggression, the effort, and the energy. So you can take Josh Hart out of the game, and I think you would have a valid basketball reason for saying that. But just be honest with yourself and just acknowledge the trade-offs that would bring to the table. So and that's one thing. Yeah. So Josh Hart being there makes it easier, but again, you could have generated other aspects, I think, and then maybe we can sort of transition into the Towns piece of it. Yeah. He is the only other option there to provide some sort of gravitational source on the ball, and it just wasn't honed in on enough. That is, as you said it on playback, that's a top-down issue from the coach to the point guard to Towns himself.
Yes.
You can't allow him to not be a factor in that basketball game.
So I didn't even realize this. We didn't even realize this in the moment. Fred Katz tweeted it out, and credit to him for doing so. Karl-Anthony Towns played the entire fourth quarter. He did not take a shot in the fourth quarter. The last shot he took came with 5 minutes and 20 seconds to go in the third. That is, I don't know if like the right terminology is like that is unacceptable, but it's like you can't have Karl-Anthony Towns on your basketball team. And like, you could even go back to game one because he took 14 shots in game one. I think he was 10 of 14.
10 of 14. Yeah.
So that means Jalen Brunson took more shots in this basketball game than Karl-Anthony Towns has taken in the first two games combined, because Towns tonight took 11 shots, and tonight Jalen Brunson took 27 shots. 27 is more than 25. I don't really know what to do with that fully, because as I mentioned and as you just said, it's on everybody, which is like, okay, great. Now how do you fix it? Like were there some possessions and some shots that Jalen Brunson probably shouldn't have taken where he would have been better served kicking the ball back out? Yeah, there were a few, but we also saw a bunch of possessions where Jalen Brunson did put the ball in the hands of his surrounding talented players and nothing happened. So then you could go to the coach to like draw up some more stuff. And I guess that's where we have to land, right?
I think so. Well, it to me, the fourth quarter is going to be like it's going to be the shining, like red flashing light of alarm bells. But to me, it's a full game issue. So in the fourth quarter, I mean, Brunson did have it going to the point where I can understand, him creating was at that point your best option, because you haven't developed anything within the game to get Towns some looks, right? No. So I think at that point you're like, how do we just win this one? Let's figure out the Towns issue games 3 and on. So here's the issue. Karl Towns, and we saw it in game 1 when he took shots, he has an advantage every time he's on the floor, not just because he's better than the centers, it's because Tobias Harris is spending a hell of a lot of time guarding him. Yeah. So if that is what the Pistons are allowing, gifting you in a sense, then you have to take advantage of that. And he did have a few post-ups, and I can, talk about the complexity here is that he is not, Karl Towns is, he's not a good passer out of a double team in the post, and they were doubling him.
Yeah.
So that does provide, some things to be concerned about, but still you have to push that button a little more to try to juice your offense quarters 1 through 3, knowing it's probably going to be more of a Jalen Brunson show in the fourth quarter anyway in a close game, but you've got to get more out of Towns. To me, it's probably more on the head coach, but also like, the point guard, the guy that controls the basketball. And he not acknowledged that in the Cleveland game, first game of the year, when Towns had 5 or 6 shots in the game,
7 or something
7 maybe under 10. Yeah. Said after the game, it's on me. And so that is also part of the situation here. This has been at times a season-long conundrum for the Knicks, how to get Towns properly involved in things, especially with the wing guarding him. We saw it in the Boston game, in the third Boston meeting, where Towns was very effective scoring the basketball in the post against their wings. I don't understand why that wasn't more of a focal point, especially knowing that was the game plan in game 1. You were ready and willing. Theoretically, you should have been in game 2 to take advantage of that.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. Look, did Towns have some opportunities that he didn't convert? Yeah, there was a really easy look over Tobias Harris, like at the rim, basically, that he missed. But we also saw, there was like literally just one post up that I could remember that was really good. That was a true post up opportunity that he converted in for a nice little jump hook, and it looked so easy. And it's like, where is that the rest of the game?
Yeah. And listen, real quick, just specific on that one, the Pistons are doubling from the baseline. So Tobias Harris, his whole motive is what they call a 3/4 front, where you're not full front in front of Towns, but you're pushing him to the baseline. That's where you want Towns to go. and he was playing high on Towns' left shoulder. Towns just goes through that shoulder into the middle where Harris is trying to prevent him to go to, and is able to drop in a jump hook. And I said, we both said it. That looked easy. Why can't that, despite the fact that they are sending help from the baseline, why can't you continue to push that button, knowing you have such a physical size advantage on that matchup? And that was the matchup almost the entire game.
Yep.
That's the frustrating part, because we saw an example of how good it can look, and they just went away from it.
And I think part of it is, and I don't mean to keep going around in circles, but like the Pistons did an excellent job of just showing bodies all the time. And the Knicks never really made Detroit pay for playing off of the rest of their offensive players. Like, I'm certainly not going to sit here and complain about the Knicks' lack of shooting when the Pistons had a much worse shooting game. The Pistons were 6 of 27 from three for 22%. The Knicks were 10 of 35 for 28%. But the reality of the situation is, like, the Knicks should be a better shooting team than the Detroit Pistons. Like, they start Asar Thompson, who is a non-shooter. They start a center who is a non-shooter. Tim Hardaway Jr. is inconsistent. He's not usually this bad, but he was very bad tonight. Tobias Harris, like, he was 1 of 4 tonight. It's like, all right, well, that's kind of par for the course with Tobias Harris. Like, he's going to go 1 of 4 a lot. The one guy who hit shots for them from the outside was Dennis Schroeder, including the biggest shot of the game, which, Jalen Brunson obviously should have stepped up there, and that's on him. But Malik Beasley went 1 for 8. But, like, if you're the Knicks, no, it's not good enough to go 3 of 11 if you're Mikal Bridges. And maybe, we've been talking for 17 minutes here, and I do this sometimes where we get into the meat and potatoes, and we ignore the, I don't know what the analogy would be here. I don't know, the dead rat on the table. And I feel bad saying that, because Mikal Bridges, I thought, on the whole, played a really nice game. Like, he did a lot of good things out there for the first however many minutes. But sometimes you just got to hit your shots, man. And I feel like I would be surprised if, despite the fact that there's a lot of X's and O's stuff to get into with this game, the vast majority of the Super Chat comments are not going to be concerning Mikal Bridges and kind of an unleashing of a season's worth of frustrations on this player who ended the game 19 points, 18 shots, 3 of 11 from 3. Now look, OG Anunoby missed all 4 of his threes, only took 4, notably. Towns, we talked about a little bit, only took 2 threes. We talked about Hart, McBride was the only guy who shot it for the Knicks. So I don't know what else there is to say about Bridges. It was a frustrating end of the night for him, and if fans are frustrated with him tonight, what do you say? What am I supposed to say? Like, you're being unfair? No,
Well, listen, it's tough when you go 0 for 4 in the fourth quarter and you miss a wide open
multiple wide open looks.
Yeah, multiple, and then the one glaring miss. I thought for a lot of that game, he and you alluded to it, I thought he played well. I think it would. I do think personally it would be unfair to sort of not pin this on him, or have him take maybe a brunt of the criticism based on.
But he will.
But he absolutely will. Now, listen, you mentioned Anunoby missing all his threes, and then his primary matchup, the guy that we all talked about how well he defended, and I think the Pistons deserve credit to make life harder on Anunoby, but Cade Cunningham had a really nice night.
Oh, Cade was great. 33 points on 21 shots.
Yeah. Only had 5 assists, so I think that's the
three
sort
assists.
of aspect. They stayed home a lot of that, but
yeah,
I thought Bridges had a really tough night. There was the one we both mentioned it, the isolation, almost like semi-transition against Harris, where like you said, he didn't go into the body, he tried to finesse around on the reverse, sort of a microcosm of his allergic reaction sometimes to seeking contact.
Yep.
That was tough. I thought Bridges though defended really well. So I really hope this isn't going to be felt like it's Bridges' loss here, because I think if you look back at this one, you're going to look at some really high level defense, especially against some of those shooters. But he does deserve criticism for going 3 of 11 from 3, and they needed 1 or 2 more of those to go down. He didn't make them, and just one. Yeah. I know Brunson only goes 4 of 12, but he got to the line, so the final stat sheet doesn't look terrible in terms of the efficiency. But I think a lot of the players deserve some blame. I think you can honestly look at Josh Hart and say like the lack of spacing outweighs the negative there, outweighs what he's providing on the offensive end as an offensive rebounder and his grit and everything. I get that. I thought, the Pistons, the way that they were not bringing the center in the action. So Towns and Robinson weren't able to impact and support OG Anunoby as much in game 2 because of the Pistons going away from that. So I talked about, even on the film session over on Patreon, it wasn't just Anunoby, it was the support that he had, especially Robinson and Towns.
Yep.
They were very rarely involved in the ball screen action when they ran it. And that was another thing. They didn't run a ton of it with Cunningham. So the Pistons made really nice adjustments to get their best player into some more advantageous situations. And Anunoby struggled containing the basketball against Cade Cunningham. So, shout out, Cade. He played like an all NBA caliber guy. And, this series has all the makings of a long one, but there are some things here that the Knicks are really going to have to clean up. I think it has to start with Towns, but he certainly isn't the only one.
Cade was the best player on the floor tonight. It wasn't particularly close. I understand Brunson scored 37 points and he deserves credit for that, but Cade was incredible. So many big shots, and a lot of correct decisions. And again, the assist number was low, but how much of that was the fact that the Pistons couldn't buy a bucket? And I agree with you. OG, not a stellar defensive game from him. Bridges, a couple of times he got matched up on Cade, did not necessarily go well. They did a good job bringing Brunson into the action and taking advantage of that. They made a lot of adjustments, and now I guess maybe, I'll let you talk about anything else that you want to talk about before you get out of here and turn me over to the Wolves. But the last thing that I just want to hit is like, so you're the Knicks and you're the head coach of the Knicks. What's your adjustment now going into game 3? Because this is absolutely a series now, and you better find a way to win one of these next 2 games. That's for shit sure.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot here in terms of like what Tibbs can sort of do to manage this. I think you have to, the play better, push the play better button, I feel like is where my head is first and foremost.
In what area specifically?
Too many Cade Cunningham drives to the right hand. And that to me, especially second half, if you're Anunoby, you have to be a little better, making sure that you are shading him to his left hand. Now listen, Cade was attacking early and the screens were being sent, it seemed like, closer to half court. So that's a tougher area to navigate in terms of the space that you have to manage if you're Anunoby, but it's too much of that. We talked about Towns being more of a focal point offensively. Then I think you do have to at least give you got to give a better look to like whether it's McBride or Shamet or Payne. Like, was the balance in terms of the lineup construction? Did Tibbs lose the balance because he was so worried? And I get it, about matching the physical nature of what that game was, that he probably felt like Shamet, Payne specifically weren't going to cut it in this one. But did he, in doing so, put so much pressure on Brunson specifically, and even, Bridges and Anunoby, to create in a half-court setting when it was so easy to load up, help, and show bodies? And I think that's where you have to go back and say, maybe we didn't strike the right balance. I think that, Josh Hart played 40 minutes.
40 minutes. I just looked it up. Yeah.
So that's where I thought he was required to be a big part of that game. Probably not 40 minutes worth. And that's where I talk about the balance of it.
Yeah. I think that's all true. I wonder about the ramifications of this one. Obviously it's going to depend on what they do down in Detroit, but you got to figure. Well, I mean, I would assume the Pistons are going to win one of those games. Obviously, we hope they don't win both. But so then it's like, all right, it's a 3-game series. A lot could happen in a 3-game series, and if the Knicks do win this in 7, even, and I said after game 1, I'm like, if I could change my pick from Knicks in 6 to Knicks in 5, I probably would. Now, if I could change my pick, I'd probably go Knicks in 7. Obviously, I'm all over the place.
There's one more thing, and
sure,
I think the Knicks Brunson specifically is getting wrapped up with this, looking at the referees every time he's bringing the ball up the court, whether it's Schroeder or Sar Thompson. He is so wrapped up mentally in the fact that he feels like he's getting fouled on every single time he's bringing the ball up the court that I think he's you talk about balance. I don't think he's balanced right now in terms of like how he's operating.
Nope.
So maybe that your mind can only like sort of process a set amount of things. Maybe that's taking him out of the full ability to see everything, and including Towns, including getting his teammates involved in a more efficient way. So I would just say to him, like, just eliminate that stuff from your mindset, because it's so clear that is all he is processing at times. And that's why he was raising the 6 fingers in the air, even though they were down 6 at the time when Asar Thompson fouled out. It's too much. And I think he needs to back off that a little bit.
That it was so clear that it had gotten in his head. But when he did that, I mean, it was probably already clear. When he did that, oh my God, it was so painfully clear that is what this game had become about for him. And you just saw the head coach on the podium apparently went on some kind of monologue of his own about the refs and everything. And like, look, that's what you have to do as the coach. I get it. But that's not what, if that's what this series becomes about, then the Pistons, that's just such a big win for the Pistons, because
huge,
like, you should, we keep saying it. I know we give all the caveats. You are more talented than this basketball team. You are. And you should be better coached than this basketball team. And your best player should be better than the best player on the other basketball team. And I got to tell you, I know you could tell me about numbers and efficiency and whatever else. Like, I just, if I'm sitting here after 2 games and I'm like, I have no idea about anything about any of these players prior to sitting down and watching them from the beginning of game 1 until now, and you ask me what guy would I want on my side for the next 5, I would say Cade Cunningham. And I don't even think it would be a particularly difficult decision. I think I think his process has certainly been better, if not just being better overall. I think that's a good argument that he has.
I think it's the argument was never the best player. It was who's going to be the best player in the series, and that's an open question right now.
And I get
open
it.
Question.
Sorry, yeah.
No, fans are hearing in what?
No, fans are going to hear me say that. They're going to be like, "What are you, fucking on drugs?" Mikal Bridges can't hit a goddamn shot. Karl-Anthony Towns can't get an attempt on goal. I'm sure that, again, there is some blame to go, on him. Like OG Anunoby can't make a 3 and was not good defensively. And that is all fair and true. Jalen Brunson is a superhero. I'm a grown man, and he's a superhero in my eyes. And I've never held an athlete to a higher standard, and he has made us collectively believe that a championship might be possible in the next future, which is not something I thought I'd ever say. And so, yeah, the standard is insane. It's not a fair standard. Nobody
Well,
should
and
be
look
held
at
to the standard.
yeah, and in game 1 he closed brilliantly.
Yep.
And he almost did it again in game 2. When you look
And he
at
almost did it
the
again in
way
game
that
2.
he was able to get to his spots and just himself scoring the basketball and keeping the Knicks attached and then almost pulling them over the finish line. He almost did it again. So I think with all we're saying about how this team is struggling in some areas and how they need to get Towns more involved and Brunson being a big piece of that, he's still basically a guy you can't guard in the fourth quarter of a close basketball game, at least this year.
Yep.
So that's still in these. I have no reason to believe these next however games are left in the series aren't going to be close and hard fought. I still would take him over anyone on the floor in a close game, in a tight game where there's a lot of physical nature and all that. So there's that piece of it. I think that's where I think if you're a Knicks fan, you look at this and say, yeah, we're tied here, but Brunson in a big spot, I still you feel good about. There's still other questions that have to be answered, but that's, to me, I still feel confident in the player making plays and doing the right thing in a big spot, especially when it means getting the ball through the basket.
Yeah, 100%, which is why I tried to couch it with, like, if you didn't know anything about these players, before the series started. Look, we'll see what happens the rest of the series. But like you win this game, you go up 2-0, you got a great chance to at least end the series in 5. And now I mean, it could still.
Mhm.
I'd be very surprised. And this brings up the possibility, the probability of a longer series. Maybe not as much rest ahead of the next series, and you know who is going to be waiting for you probably then. So this was an impactful game, and I struggle to see a scenario where we may not look back at this game, win or lose this series, and say that was the one. That was the one that they had a chance to steal, and there were 18 different things that could have gone differently, maybe should have gone differently, and none of them did, and here we are. Any other thoughts from you before we get to betting and sweating?
Well, the only thing is, if you're Detroit, you're looking at this like we should have won game 1, and we were clearly the better team in game 2.
Oh, yeah.
Their confidence right now, if it wasn't a 10 out of 10, is going to be there heading into game 3. So that's where it's not just 1-1, it's 1-1 with a team that believes, and they have every reason to believe that they can win the series. So game 3, especially those first 5 minutes in a rabid arena is going to be huge. So still confident the Knicks are winning this series, but like you said, this loss means in all likelihood like 6 or 7 games.
Yep.
So that's where we're at, and just buckle up, because this one teetered on getting really explosive in terms of the physicality, and I can only imagine it ramping up even hotter heading into game 3.
Yep. Well said. Okay. Let us take a quick break before we get to the super chats to hear from our friends at Fanatics Sportsbook. We are going to review our betting and sweating picks. And again, we are so proud to have and happy to have Fanatics Sportsbook as the presenting sponsor of the Knicks Film School postgame show. So we had 3 picks tonight. I had my own series of picks, which if you want to go back and see how I did, check out the episode of Betting and Sweating that I did with Andrew Claudio beforehand. So Karl-Anthony Towns, at least 24 points by Mensa. That unfortunately is a loss, and not a very close loss either.
No.
Jalen Brunson, 3 or more made threes. That is, of course, from our
win.
guy Jeff. What?
That's a win.
Hit. That's a win. And then Detroit at New York. Talk about a smart bet from Sean with a W. Under 221.5 points was minus 110. He should have gone way left on the alt line on this one. I don't know what you could have gotten for under 200 total points, but that was the way to go there. And good job by Sean and good job by Jeff. And if the Knicks would have done a good job themselves, it would have been a good job by Mensa. Unfortunately, they did not. So those are our betting sweats, 2 for 3. Betting and sweating picks, 2 for 3, not bad. Again, thank you to Fanatics Sportsbook for being our presenting sponsor. And DJ, reminder, gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents, 1-888-789-7777. Massachusetts residents, 1-800-327-5050. New York residents, 877-8-HOPE-NY. And Maryland residents, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Final thoughts from you, DJ, before we get out of here.
Well, 2 days off, so you have some time here to figure out all those things that we're talking about. I know Tibbs is gonna. I did see the comments regarding the officiating. He values the Knicks being a low foul team, so whenever they do foul a lot, he views it always as a slight against his team, and of course, he's very protective of his point guard. So I have no issue with how he's handling that post game. But yeah, this is going to be. If this is why Knicks don't do things easy, and didn't do things easy last year. They're not going to do things easy this year. So just get accustomed to it, enjoy it, try to have fun with it. But this one certainly is not enjoyable and not fun. But this will be a long, fun series, I think.
Oh man, I don't. It doesn't feel very fun right now.
Not right now, but
Deej, but I agree with you. It should be. It should be a fun series. Thank you so much for coming on. I need you here to help digest. And that is indeed something that we did. So good job by you, my friend.
All right, guys, go easy on John. Thank you, Mark.
All righty. Okay. On that note, you know what time it is. Let's talk about it. Guy Hooper then starts us off. Knicks lucky we out-talent them because our offensive philosophy and process is a joke and has been for a while, to say nothing of the heart of it all. So Guy Hooper, obviously a frustrated fan here, starting us off. I mean, the offensive philosophy, I think, at times looks really good. I mean, it's tough to say that the offensive philosophy and process is a joke when they're 5th in the league in offense. You got to take the good with the bad, and when things are bad, you can't just ignore the good. And I think there's a lot of good stuff about this offense, and including their process and philosophy. And it's not just about talent. That said, I think saying that it is a joke is probably going a bit too far. They have not developed a great offensive identity that you feel like is repeatable against the best defenses over the course of the year. And yeah, Josh Hart factors into that. And it's tough when he gives you so much stuff that you need. And they needed all the stuff that he brought tonight. And unfortunately, he's just right now, especially an imperfect player. Thanks, Goober, for starting us off. All right, we got 3 in a row from JD. Here we go. That transition 3 from Mikal Bridges made no sense. He's cold. Okay, we got. I'll read all of JB's. Need more from Cat. He felt MIA tonight. And then the last one. Hashtag save us 11 offense is in full effect tonight. So yeah, I mean, we hit on all of those things already in the monologue. The Jalen Brunson rescue us. That was the best offense. I mean, it was not the best offense they had going, but it was the offense tonight. It was the offense tonight. It is troubling. I mean, look, Detroit only had 11 assists on 33 made field goals. The Knicks had 15 assists on 34 made field goals. Again, you should not be holding yourself to the standard of the Detroit Pistons in terms of offense and in terms of what you're able to do. So, and especially when they came out in the first quarter and you felt great about the Knicks passing and their ball movement in the first quarter. And then the Pistons started to get more physical, and it's like it changed the mentality. And, and that's all factors in. As far as Cat doing more, again, I think the biggest, the Cat part of it is absolutely the biggest part of the conversation in the series. How do you get Cat going? Does Cat need to get himself going? Does Cat need to do more? Does it need to come from the sideline? Does it need to come from the point guard? All of that is true. As far as Mikal Bridges taking a pull-up three in transition, look, forget what you gave up to get him. If you're a player of Mikal Bridges' caliber, and he is how he is viewed in the league, or how he has been viewed in the league for years, objectively, if a player takes that shot, you feel good about it. Even if he is having kind of an off night, and I don't know that I would say he was having an off night. It turned into an off night because he went 0 for the fourth quarter, but he was having a pretty good night shooting-wise before that, including making 3 threes. So, you got to make shots. He didn't. It's tough. It's tough. Thanks, JD. Dan Hidalgo, what's going on, Dan? Bridges did everything but score for Detroit. Again, I had a feeling this is what it was going to be. It's just everything about him on the negative side has been extremely loud. And it is a combination of the fact that you gave up, if you're the Knicks, they gave up what they gave up to get him. And the fact that he seems at times to be the antithesis of the identity that was developed by last year's team. And you can feel that when you watch him. And I think I mentioned it on the playback. I'll say it again now. The chance where he had the open lane to the rim, he had Tobias Harris in front of him. But he takes Tobias Harris off the dribble, and instead of going hard to the basket and seeking contact, tries to go up and under and hits the bottom of the backboard. It's been a tough year for him. And I think he's gotten too much blame. I think he'll get too much blame tonight. Doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and rally the troops, because we got to believe in Mikal Bridges. I mean, obviously, if the Knicks want to win moving forward in these playoffs, they have to believe in Mikal Bridges, and we should too. But no, it's tough. Thanks, Dan. Mythic Monty, Mid-Cal Bricket. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Tough. Mr. McBagels, what's going on, Mr. McBagels? Needed campaign minutes. Brunson was gassed. I think whether there should have been second half campaign minutes, or for that matter, more than 4 minutes in the first half. So we didn't really talk about this in the monologue, but strange rotation pattern from Tom Thibodeau. So campaign was very bad in the first half. He was not good in his 4 minutes. But I do think it was notable that 2 of those minutes that he played, which were half of the total minutes that he played in this game, were with Karl-Anthony Towns on the bench. That makes no sense. Very, very rarely, I don't need to tell anyone on here, very rarely will I go out criticism of the coach is fair. I don't love the tone of a lot of the criticism because I think it's just, I don't know, it's disrespectful. But very rarely will I say that I don't understand something at all that a coach does. Campaign and Karl-Anthony Towns have been they make magic together. They've made magic together all year. When they get on the floor together, they're plus 10 per 100 possessions. The offense is elite. The defense is pretty good. Why you're bringing campaign into the game when Karl Towns is out of the game did not make any sense to me. Now, what are we talking about? We're talking about 1 minute and 39 seconds. We are talking about literally 1 minute and 39 seconds of the first quarter. In that 1 minute and 39 seconds, the Pistons scored 4 points and the Knicks scored 0 points. So it was 4-0. And then at the top of the second quarter, Karl-Anthony Towns came in the game And not that things went, swimmingly. But it was 5-4 advantage Detroit in that time. But at least the Knicks scored some buckets. The offense looked functional. And although I think I'm trying to think of one. No, I was trying to think if that was the lucky McBride 3. So I didn't get that at all. Because if your campaign is effective because he gets to play with Karl-Anthony Towns, which is no slight on campaign, but that's just the way it is. So I didn't understand that at all. As far as going back to Payne in the second half, was Brunson gassed? I don't know. I mean, he looked pretty good through a lot of the fourth quarter. You're going to say that he was gassed because he couldn't make one of the threes down the stretch? Maybe. I don't know. It's fair. I certainly would have minded seeing campaign for at least a couple of minutes there to start the fourth. But we didn't get it, so you move on. Abe, AEBB. I hope I got. Sorry, I think I blacked out there for a second. Try that again. Brunson hero ball lost the game. His decision-making completely ruined the offensive flow. Pass the damn ball. Maybe let Cat try. Sorry. Okay. I think I'm back now. Sorry about that. My internet tonight seems to be about as good as the Knicks offensive flow. Saying it completely ruined it, saying pass the damn ball. I mean, again, Brunson has had a lot of these games where he takes a lot of shots and he generates the utmost praise. There is such a thin line. There is such a thin line when you are a superstar player between when do you take the shot yourself and when do you pass the ball. I think, as we tried to point out, there were instances where Brunson passed it out that did not go well and that did not result in positive attempts on goal. All that said, the balance was off. He was not at his best. I completely agree with the sentiment that he was not at his best. I completely agree with the sentiment that he needs to be better. I do think that there were some other issues at play, but does Brunson need to pass it more? Along with some adjustments to how you're running the offense? Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Abe. Chris Carter. Hard to have any faith in this team. Look, it's always, things are always better after a win, or things are always seem better than they actually are after a win. Things always seem worse than they are, or than they seem after a loss. I still do have faith in this team. Maybe naively so. They've had literally, 20 losses this year that, if not more, that inspired some version of what you're saying, where it's I'm people were like, I'm out on this team. I don't believe in this team to do anything really important or good. They played a bad game. We know that they are capable of playing a better game. It is not as if the Detroit Pistons have suddenly solved the Knicks. The Knicks contributed to their own demise. Now, I think that's part of what you're saying. I think that may be your actual point, which is that the Knicks contribute to their own demise way too often for your liking and probably for anybody's liking. They're not the only team that does so. Playoff basketball is hard. You're playing teams that are good. And I think if you look at any of the games from over the weekend, it's funny how often in these scenarios, teams play a game that makes you makes their fans be like, I don't have faith in this team. Don't lose faith just yet. Thanks, Chris. Kevin Nanashevsky. What's going on, man? Thought the offensive process was bad. Yep. And the lineup choices did not help. Yeah. We'll get back to that in a second. 2025 McCall is 2022 Fournier. Better player, and neither were bad, but doesn't fit. Boy, oh boy, is that a staggering comparison. And it's staggering because I can't sit here and tell you it's way off base. You know, McCall is obviously a better defensive player. He's better. Well, is he a better offensive player? The fact that I even have to ask that question is troubling. But yeah, you nailed it. It's the fit. It's the fit. And I have a funny feeling if Tom Thibodeau loses his job, which I've been I've just come out and said it several times in several formats, so I could just say it here. Like I just have a funny feeling he's not going to be back. I think we're going to look back at this game as the reason why. Not for like any decisions he made in this game, but it is interesting that the two times that Tibbs has been on the hot seat have been in a season where they brought in both seasons where they brought in a starting shooting guard who just was not a fit. Now, I think the difference, and we'll see how this works out. I remain skeptical that another coach is going to come in here and solve Bridges. But we'll see. As far as the lineup choices, I think the only thing that's kind of tough, and we talked about it already, is the Josh Hart of it all. He was doing a lot of Josh Hart stuff in a positive way. Did you need to play him 40 minutes? And if you didn't, who was getting the minutes? Probably Deuce, right? Deuce had it going tonight. Deuce was 2 of 4. I know one of those was kind of a prayer. But Deuce had it going tonight. So he would have been the guy. Thanks, Kev. Rich McLeod, what's going on, Rich? This team has played unserious basketball for 6 of the 8 quarters to start the playoffs and at home. I don't love what I've seen at all. I'm going to push back pretty hard on that. A lot of people were really down on their performance in game 1 as a whole. I just wasn't. I watched that game with DJ, and like the whole time, like you want to tell me their third quarter in game 1 was kind of unserious? That's fine. I'll give you that. But I don't even, honestly, I would not have termed it that. I thought they played a very serious game 1. I just don't think that they were particularly effective for long stretches of game 1. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that the Pistons were just hitting everything, so it made it look worse than it was. This game, on defense, they did not defend as well as the numbers would seem to indicate because the Pistons just missed a ton of open shots. That said, let's say this. I thought their defensive effort was subpar tonight on the whole until the fourth quarter. If you're going to throw around the unserious term, I think there were times where the offense seemed unserious. You know, and when I say unserious, I mean making it about drawing fouls and the physicality, but then I could sit here and I could say that. And so what is the alternative? The alternative is just try to play your game, which sounds great. Sounds great. But clearly, I think they were in a position where they felt like they could not play their game because of how they were being defended and how the game was not being called. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know that I have a great answer. Thanks, Rich. Hush, what's going on, Hush? Okay, I have real concerns. Not shocked, Hush. I ignored it last game because of the vibes. We've trailed in both games. Most of the game now going into Detroit. Something needs to change. We are too offensively talented. Yeah. They need to figure it out. They need to figure out a better way. I thought I was actually a lot more pleased with the offensive process in game one. I thought the offensive process in game one was good. I just didn't think they hit threes for most of the game. But I thought the process was good. I thought, yeah, you could have gotten it to Towns a little bit more, but overall, I thought the process was fine. Tonight, yeah, they're more talented, but as DJ has talked about all season long, this is not something he's just come upon now. This has been his theme for the entire year. For all their offensive talent, and they do have offensive talent, they lack guys who could create advantages off the ball or with the ball in their hands, just off the dribble. And that's been tough against the better defenses. And it was tough tonight because, man, did they play the Detroit defense tonight? This is as good a defense as the Knicks have played all year in terms of how effective they were. It's exceptional. Exceptional effort by Detroit. And execution and game plan and the whole thing. 10 out of 10. Thanks, Oscar. Yili. What's going on, Yili? Dante would have hit those shots, you think? Would have hit at least one of them. I know that. They miss him so much. They miss him so much. It's scary how much they miss Dante DiVincenzo. No. Thanks, you. Kanyan Pepper, what's going on, Kanyan? Way too much hero ball from JB. On to the next. Thanks, Macri. I don't know what I did, but you're welcome. I'm just like going to be very curious. Like coming out game 3, obviously tough environment. Although I don't think the environment's going to like rattle the Knicks. Obviously, they've played extremely tough environments over the last few years. I'm curious if they come out and it's like, oh, they've adjusted. And again, I can't. The fact that sitting here right now, I can't sit here and. But I'm obviously not an NBA coach, so I would hope that they could think of something that I can't sitting here right now. I can't sit here and think of like the obvious thing. Like, yeah, the obvious thing: get Towns the ball more. Like, force feed him the ball. He's never been that kind of player that you could force feed him the ball, which is, I think, one of the knocks on him. Like, Towns, there were opportunities to get Towns the ball that were not taken advantage of. I retweeted the most egregious one that Benji clipped a little while ago. But, so, who is most of the blame on? I think it's probably not on Towns in this game, but, like, he also needs to play a role in his own revival, so to speak. Thanks, Kanyan. Appreciate you. Robert W. Cross. What's going on, Robert? How you doing, man? First time, long time. It's your boy, John. Knicks are fortunate to be level-headed to Detroit. At what point does Tibbs switch the starting lineup? Time and cohesion, am I right? He's not switching the starting lineup. What do you want him to switch it to? What do you want to start, Mitch? You want to start Deuce? That ship sailed so long ago, Robert. And should he? I don't. My opinion, no, he shouldn't. My opinion is the Knicks have the ability with the personnel in the starting lineup to be the best version of themselves. I agree that comes with unique challenges and challenges that maybe should not be present with your starting 5. But at the end of the day, I believe that the best 5 players on the Knicks are the 5 players. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that should be the starting 5. It comes down to the best combination of 5 players. Either way, I believe in those 5 guys being able to play together and play really, really well. I don't know. I would be surprised. If they switched up the starting lineup, especially given the Pistons and how they're being very physical on the boards, especially. I mean, the rebounding discrepancy tonight was frightening. There were 3 Pistons that by themselves rebounded the entire Knicks team. So you're gonna take away one of your best rebounders. Now, is that just an easy thing to fall back on? And it's like, well, we got to leave Hart in there because he's a good rebounder. No, that's not all the conversation is about. There's other stuff. I thought Hart made some nice plays on defense tonight. I don't know. I'm not saying it's crazy, Robert. I don't mean to imply that it's not crazy, but I don't think you're going to see it, and I personally would not do it. Thanks. TJ2K, what's going on, TJ2K? Fuck all the flopping. Disgusted. That was what we resorted to. We got on Embiid for the same thing, only to be one of the villains. Tom has to go. #3 to go. Yeah, well, I don't know what the flopping part of it has to do with Tibbs, but yeah, I mean, I think the opposing fan criticism of Jalen Brunson is unfair and over the top tonight. But again, it's like, put yourself in his shoes. You feel like you're getting fouled every time down the floor. Now, whether he's right about that or he's wrong about that, he feels he's getting fouled every time down the floor. He doesn't feel that way every game. He doesn't feel that way most games. But he felt it tonight, and infield was being called fairly. So what is he going to do? He's going to try to force the issue. And if you're going to try to force the issue, like, yeah, you're going to try to embellish sometimes. I personally find that to be very different than what Embiid engages in, and I do not think that is apples to oranges in the slightest. Embiid just like runs into people and falls down and gets calls. Like, I don't look, to each their own. I don't think that's what Jalen Brunson does or was doing. But yeah, I mean, it's, that was advantage Detroit. It was advantage Detroit. Thanks, TJ. Sam Garcia, what's going on, Sam? That was an awful viewing experience. Yeah, that was a pretty rough one. That was a pretty rough one. I mean, it got fun there in the fourth for a little bit. But even the fourth, you were holding your breath because you're like, you didn't have a lot of faith. So, like, they kept pushing, they kept pushing. It made some big plays. But, yeah, man, that was rough. Oscar Lung. I don't know. I hope I didn't mess that up. What's going on, Oscar? 0 field goal attempts by Cat in the fourth. What sense does that make? Let's go Knicks. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I mean, DJ talked about it a little bit. Like, at that point, it clearly that was not where this game was. And so you want to say it's fourth quarter, it's Brunson time, whatever. That it's just not okay. The fact that you got to the point in the game and he plays 12 minutes and doesn't shoot a field goal in the fourth is just can't happen. Thanks, Oscar. Dan Hidalgo with another one. Bright side, we were asked and we still had a chance. I can't look past the Pistons. Like, if the Pistons were shooting just like a regular poor game as opposed to like an abhorrent game, that's the thing. A lot of those shots that the Pistons missed were open. They were wide open. They missed a handful at least of wide open threes. Good looks, quality looks. And this team has guys that can make tough looks. And they missed a bunch of those too. So, like, this game was teetering on the brink, 11, 12, 13 points for so much of it. If the Pistons had even like a moderate, just like a regular poor shooting game as opposed to an abhorrent shooting game, the lead probably would have been 20 at some point. And you would not have gotten back in this game. And you would not have had a chance. So, I don't know. I don't know what you do with that. Thanks, Dan. Anthony Sixto, what's going on, Anthony? My issue is Cat in the OB corner spot for most of the second half. Yeah, it should be your issue. The Pistons can't stop him, and it consistently created good looks for others. Baffled how he is being utilized. Please get more threes from Cat. Well, the threes from Cat, that's on Cat a little bit. He had the first possession of the game. He had a phenomenal opportunity to fire it away, and he bypassed it. And I don't think that was the only time. That said, again, I retweeted a clip that Benji put out where Brunson decided to shoot it over two Pistons, and he had Towns wide open behind the arc. I mean, we could go back, and I'm sure we could look through the entire film and see passes that were not made to Cat that should have been. Look, there's so many different ways that he should be being utilized better, and there's a reason why I thought it was the biggest takeaway from this game. It's by far. Forget the physicality nonsense. Forget that, just can't have that. Can't have it. Kev Danishevsky with another one. Thank you, Kevin. Look, something's got to change. Some of it's on Cat, but not running anything through him is just untenable. The talent is on the roster. Sorry, John. No, it's like you got to be more creative. You got to figure out. And I can't sit here and say do this, do that. I'm not a coach. Yeah, obviously. But it's not good enough. It's just not good enough. You can't have that player take 11 shots when he's being guarded by Tobias Harris. You just can't have it happen. Cannot have it happen. Thank you, Kevin. Cosmo Payne, what's going on, Cosmo? Getting severed so my innie forgets this game. Shout out Ben Stiller. Oh, man. I don't blame you for that. Thanks, Cosmo. Deadwards 604. What's going on, Deadwards? Thank you for the generous contribution. Aside from a few minutes in both games, Detroit has outplayed them so far. I don't want to hear the out-talent argument at all. They play less than the sum of their parts, and it's been an ongoing problem all year. Yeah, it's the theme of the season. It's the theme of the season. I completely agree, by the way. Detroit has played better than them. I mean, I'm higher on how the Knicks played in game one overall than it seems like most people are. But I think leading up to that 21-0 run, at the very least, you would say that the Pistons played them to a draw. And I think it's fair to say that the Pistons outplayed them, even if it was only slightly. Tonight, the Pistons outplayed the Knicks the entire game. So the Pistons have played better than the Knicks for the vast majority of two games. I completely agree with you. So why is that? And how could you change that? That's on everybody. It's on the coach. It's on the players. Because you're in a dogfight now, and this Pistons team, they are not going away. They are not going away. And I know the Knicks don't think they're going away either. Thanks, Edwards. Robert Cross with another one. First time, long time. It's your boy John. Explain to me how Payne was the hero of game one and managed 4 minutes. 4 minutes tonight. Yeah. No, it's I talked about the strange rotation decision to put him in with no Towns in the first quarter. You know, do I have a huge issue with him playing only 4 minutes in the first half? He wasn't very good in those minutes. To not have him go out there in the second half, even for a couple minutes to start the fourth quarter. Now, look, you were down, whatever you were down going into the fourth. I think you were down by 9. You know, you want to tell me like you needed to, down by 8. You know, you want to tell me you need to stay connected there. Every minute counts. I don't know. The thing with backups is they have good games and they have bad games. And obviously Tibbs looked at him in the first half and said, all right, tonight's not a campaign night. Was he right? Was he wrong? I don't know. He doesn't look good now. And the other one from Robert Cross, Josh Hart, 40 minutes of clogging space, no adjustments, no changes, 40 minutes. Well, that's unfair, Robert. To say, to characterize Josh Hart's game tonight as 40 minutes of clogging space. One, it's not accurate because you can generate space with Josh Hart on the floor. You just can. We've seen it often against good defenses. They did not do a great job of it tonight. But to just boil down Hart's entire game, which is how I read your comment, is unfair. In terms of adjustments or changes, yeah, we didn't see a lot. We didn't see a lot. Now, I don't know that I thought they needed to make a ton of adjustments on offense coming into this game. Did it seem like there were adjustments made throughout the game on the offensive side of the ball? Not really. So now it's on to game 3. What can you do before game 3? Thanks, Robert. Dom Cappuccini, what's going on, Dom? Thank you for the very generous contribution. We appreciate it, my friend. Well, that fucking sucks that they got their split. The way they played in the fourth gives me some encouragement that they'll win at least one before game 5. The way Detroit cannot stay disciplined in the fourth helps my optimism. I think the most encouraging part about the fourth quarter was they defended like they actually gave a shit. You know, and like, I'm not trying to be like too critical of their defense for the game as a whole, because I don't think that their defense was awful. I don't think their defense, even by playoff standards, I don't think that their defense was awful. I just don't. But we saw when the chips were down how they defended. Now, the Pistons still scored 25 points in the quarter, in the period. You know, but I also think a lot of that was like early in the fourth quarter. I thought there was a stretch where they defended really well. So that's encouraging to me. You got to figure out the offense. And like, that's the part that I can't believe I'm saying it has me more worried. That like, I don't know that I have the utmost faith in the Knicks being able to generate good offense, because again, there's like, everybody has the same answer. Get Towns more shots. Get Towns more shots. Get Towns more shots. It is easier said than done, given the sort of player that he is. Can you do it? Should you do it? Do you have to do it? Yes. But that's the part that's a little troubling to me. Thanks, Tom. Josh Levin, what's going on, Josh? Hard not to think about Dante after the McCall misses. Yeah. Well, you said miss. I said misses because it was more than one miss in the fourth quarter. Yeah. Dante was he was a big shot taker, and he was a lot of times a big shot maker. Thanks, Josh. Jordan Miller, what's going on, Jordan? Was there a single offensive adjustment made to counter the defense? Because I didn't see one. The Knicks didn't almost win this one. The Pistons almost lost it. Yeah, that's fair. That last part. Was there a single offensive adjustment? Not really. Not really. Yeah, I mean, look, this was. I thought Tibbs deserved a lot of praise after game 1, and he got some praise. I deserved it. Tough to feel great about the coaching tonight. Thanks, Jordan. Dom the Dentist, what's going on, Dom? As much as I want to jump on the Fire Tibbs bandwagon for what, in my opinion, was a poorly coached game, I feel the lack of involvement of Towns is on Brunson. Well, why would you want to jump on that bandwagon? Come on. I do think people like being on that bandwagon. I think it makes people happy, which is part of why I get so bent out of shape. But that's neither here nor there. I think it was mostly on Brunson. If you're an all NBA point guard and you have that offensive weapon, like, that's why I kind of said what I said about Brunson to start the show. Like, I get it. 37 points on 27 shots, hit a bunch of shots in the fourth quarter. There's a part of me in the back of my head that's screaming, man, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy who your team, you got the gift from the gods in this guy, Jalen Brunson, and you're going to get on here after a game when that was his stat line, and you're going to be critical of him over all these other guys. The voice in my back of my head is telling me that, because I see other people, other teams, other content creators doing it about their guys, and I look at it and be like, my God, you should be kissing your lucky star, thanking your lucky stars that you got this gift. And I will never not feel that way about Jalen Brunson. He was a gift from the basketball gods on this franchise, and I don't want to think about where they would be without him. I think it's okay to think all of that, and also think about tonight that he was mostly responsible for Towns not getting more involved. Thanks, Tom. Gbo, what's going on, Gbo? Tibbs, where's the ball movement when JB was out? Shake my head. Well, so that's, I think, more complicated, because where does your ball movement comes from? Your ball movement comes from some advantage being created somewhere, somehow. And the Pistons defenders did an exceptional job standing their ground. And the Knicks don't have any other advantage creators. Now, Brunson played 44 minutes. I don't like, so it's not like he sat for very long. But he sat for 4 minutes and they scored 5 points in those 4 minutes. So yeah, we're gonna do. Thanks, Chibo. Dom with another one. Thank you, Dom, again. I know McCall is getting a lot of the hate right now. He had a good game overall. He's been clutch before. I believe he'll be clutch again. 5 firsts. Just throw it in that 5 firsts at the end. He has been clutch before, and he will probably have a clutch moment in the series. It's just really hard because the noise from opening night. It started on opening night, and even when he was having good stretches and good games, I don't think that noise ever really went away. And so when there's an up, now, did he wind up having a good game overall? I don't know that I'd say that, but yeah. Another one from Dom here. Thank you again, Dom. Thank you so much. Really, after a freaking loss, to have this kind of generosity, we appreciate it. Credit to Detroit's head coach JB Bickerstaff for making the adjustment on Cat. It's Cat's turn to make the next adjustment. Like you both said last game, if that is the Cat we'll be getting, then this is a short series. It will be a legit series. If it's this, it will be a legit series. So I do think Towns defensively was pretty good tonight. Like I know there was one pretty rough blow by, maybe two. Defensively was where my concern was, a big part of my concern. But as I said the last game, the bigger part of my concern was on offense. Now, when I had concerns about Cat's offense in the series, I was more thinking like we were going to get irresponsible drives that turned into turnovers or bad looks at the rim or, whatever else. That hasn't really manifested itself. Is the adjustment on? It's not just on. It's on Cat partially, but it's on. It really is on everybody. It just is. It's on everybody. It's on the point guard. It's on the head coach. It's on Cat. It's on everybody. It's on the whole team. Like there were opportunities to get Cat shots. There just were. And I know he wasn't great maybe on some of the shots he did take, but 11's not enough. Just not. Thanks, Tom. JD with another one. It feels like we're missing a fire away shooter like Malik. Yeah, we had him last year. Dante DiVincenzo. He was awesome. He unlocked so much for this team. And they have not been able to replace it all year. And I don't know that did they think that Bridges was going to give them that? Has never been who he's been. Now, that was not a concern that had concerns about trading away Dante, but like it was more about the whole bigger picture. Even after I had a little time to think about the Dante trade, I wasn't like, oh my God, how are they going to replace his quick trigger? I figured overall the offense would still figure out a way to be great. And like, in large part they were, but like you see it in these games. They just don't have, they miss that guy. And like Bridges, to his credit, I guess, kind of tried to force himself to be that guy in this game. And it didn't work out. Thanks, JD. SF New York. Thank you very much for the generous contribution. Okay, now we got 2 from Gerson Rodriguez. So I want to read before we get there. Actually, I'll read this first. You can put it up. Gerson Rodriguez. It's Cat's fault. Perfect scapegoat for JB, ISO ball, and hero ball. So perfect timing. So Jared Dubin, who's a friend of the pod, been on several times, brought up in response to Fred Katz's tweet about Towns not taking shots, that he totally disappeared from the game, but it's at least partially on Tibbs and Brunson. You can't let the Pistons remove him from the game by overindulging in exactly what they want you to do. He then checked it, and this credit to Jared, Towns had 35 touches all night, his second fewest in any game this season. Notable. And then this from John Krasinski, who, of course, has covered Cat his entire career. Everyone knows how I feel about Cat. I'm sure he could have done a little bit more to get the ball, but someone has to get it to him. 35 touches is insane. Yep. Yeah, I agree. Look at it this way. Jalen Brunson took, if you combine Jalen Brunson's shot attempts from the field and free throw attempts, equals 38. That's more than Cat had touches. Okay. Another one from Gerson. JB only passes the ball when he has no more options. That's the story of this game. Like, again, I think it's okay to be critical of Brunson's performance in this game. I also understand why Brunson had the performance that he did in this game. The Pistons were single covering him. They were single covering him, and he was being single covered for the most part. Like, they weren't outright doubling him with an immense amount of physicality. And anytime Brunson gets single covered, when it's not an elite defender, and a lot of those possessions were not with an elite defender, it was with one Detroit lesser defender. But then it's, a lot of him was with Asar too. I don't know. I didn't think he forced a ton of tough shot attempts on Asar. It's just so tough. Because you could go back and you could look at certain possessions and you could say, yes, this possession should have passed it, or that possession should have passed it. But if I'm looking at Brunson's mentality coming into this game, where he knows this Knicks offense does not stand a chance if he is not going out there and creating advantages, that is such a tricky place to be in as an offensive ball player when you know that, and then to try to balance that with, like, I got to get everybody involved. I actually thought out of the gate, I thought he was overpassing. I thought Brunson was absolutely looking to pass a ton, and I didn't think it was going particularly well. So, that said, the ball movement in the first quarter was great overall. Look, it was a rough game overall from Brunson. It's a challenge. He's being faced with a challenge. He's the best player on a team with home court advantage. Obviously, if you're in that spot, you're going to be faced with challenges. Did he respond to the challenges tonight in the way we would have liked him to? No. To sit here and be like, JB only passes the ball when he has no more options is just one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. One, because it's not true. And two, like, if you're Jalen Brunson and you have a defender on you who is not a strong defender and it is a one-on-one situation, you should shoot the ball. That's offense in the NBA, you know? Now, say the same thing about Cat. If you're calling out the Towns and and you're being single covered by a defender who is not a top-notch defender, and you have the ball, you should shoot it. So why does one guy get 27 shots and one guy get 10 shots? That's where the problem comes in. Thanks, Gerson. Richard Bailey, what's going on, Richard? Tibbs can't coach Cat. Yeah, I mean, you lost me there a little bit. I think I think it's a wild oversimplification. I think if you look at Cat throughout his entire career, there have been all of the teams that he's been on. There have occasionally been challenges getting him the amount of shot attempts that a player of his talent would seem to dictate. And the amount of that said, 35 is ridiculous. It's way too low. To overgeneralize and say that he can't coach Cat is a bit much. Bill Peterfriend, what's going on, Bill? How are you, man? Game 3 is a must win. I mean, lose game 3, game 4 is a must win. I don't want to live in a world where they lose game 3. I'll tell you that. You cannot give this young team an extra boost of confidence. They have way too much offensive talent to score 94. Unacceptable. Well, yeah, about the offensive talent and scoring 94. Yes, for unacceptable. The only pushback I'm going to give you is that you cannot give this young team an extra boost of confidence. They got their confidence. Honestly, they had their confidence come into the series. They played like a confident team in all the best ways in game 1, and then they got rattled, and they played with, and they went back, and I'm sure they're great job by Bickerstaff going and telling them, be like, hey guys, you were the better team for 3 quarters, or 3 quarters and 3 minutes. You were the better team, and it's your first time here. Shit happened, didn't go your way, but guys, just go out there and play that way again, and don't have the same brain farts. And we got this. And they went out there and they took that advice and they absolutely played like it. So they're playing with all the confidence in the world. Now, do I think there is still a possibility at some point in this series where they maybe get a little tight in a big spot? Yeah. You know, do I think there's a possibility they even maybe tight out of the gate at home, whether it's in game 3 or if they win game 3, if they're, up and coming out in game 4, or if they lose game 3, maybe they're tight, at the start of game 4. I don't know, but they're playing with all the confidence in the world, all the confidence. So credit to them for that. Thanks, Bill. Ben Kim Gervey, what's going on, Ben? We haven't earned the right to play this arrogant. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's an unfair characterization. Yeah, no, they're playing like a team that knows it's better than the team that they're playing, and there seems to be now some doubt as to whether they are better than the team they're playing. So, yeah. Thanks, Ben. Jibo, what's going on, Jibo? Positive note, we showed 2024 grit in both games. I mean, they made a nice comeback in the fourth quarter, obviously. Yeah, it's great that they didn't let go of the rope. If they let go of the rope in this game and they let Detroit walk away with a 15-point win in their building in game 2 of the playoffs, then it's over. Not maybe necessarily this series, but then like whatever this iteration of the team is over. And whether it's firing the coach or trading key players or whatever. So like, yeah, the fact that they showed grit, I think should leave us feeling like we should still have hope in this team to figure it out. Where we are existing right now is like, okay, great, we have some hope, but boy, it's not feeling great right now. Thanks, Jibo. Brian Militzak. I hope I got that right, Brian. An incredibly generous contribution from you. And I got to say, thanks to everybody. I know we got a bunch of people watching. We've had a bunch of super chats already. Some incredibly generous contributions. Thank you, everybody. It's funny. I sometimes talk about like what I would be doing if I was a fan and I wasn't doing this. Like, I would want to get as far away from thinking about the Knicks as possible after that game. But so thankfully, y'all don't want to do that for my sake. So Brian, thank you. First time, long time. I've been meaning to write in forever. Many thanks to you, to all of you and the boy. Many thanks for all you and the boys do. Huge fan. First of all, thank you. We are very lucky to be able to do what we do, and thank you for thinking that it's good. Okay. Cat getting 11 shots and taking 2 threes is unacceptable, especially with 6'8" Tobias guarding him. Yep, it's the story of the game, Brian. It's the story of the game. And it's the story of the game because it doesn't have, for me, it doesn't have the easy do this, Yes, it is easy to say, get the man more touches, get the man more shot attempts, put the man in better positions to be able to generate his own offense and generate offense for others. It is so easy to say that. And in concept, it should be easy to execute, or easier to execute than they made it seem tonight. And yet I still want to see it. I still want to see it because it has been an issue all year against the best defenses. Getting Towns a good number of shot attempts, and B, getting him quality shot attempts against the top defenses. It has been an issue all year. He has figured some stuff out along the way, and it has not been all bad, but it has been an issue all year. So the notion that it is not going to continue to be an issue and the Knicks are just going to figure out the cat thing and everything's going to be fine, I think it's going to continue to be an issue. But they better figure it out, because I don't really like the alternative. I'll tell you that. Thank you again so much, Brian. Appreciate you. What cup do I have here? Oh, I have my 2024 Knicks playoff cup. So I got that at game 2 of Philly series. Did not bring luck tonight, as it were. Huck Frazier, what's going on, Huck? Thankfully, the Pope didn't have to watch this. Yeah, rest in peace, Pope Francis. Let's go with Francis. I needed the 4.5 model of ChatGPT to find this many lineups without double bigs or spacing. Need an adult to end this starting lineup, 2 seasons. Starting lineup, 2 seasons of minutes, 3 wings doesn't work. So a lot of stuff there. The spacing is, I mean, we've been talking about it all year, or really for the last 3 months. The spacing gets cramped when Josh Hart is in there. They have found ways to make it work. They have found ways to make it work against good teams. The level of aggression and physicality displayed by the Pistons tonight made you feel made you feel Hart's presence more in a negative way? Do I think it? Can I sit here right now and say, like, if Josh Hart plays 30 minutes in that game or 28 minutes in that game or however many minutes in that game and Deuce McBride plays the rest of the minutes, that the Knicks win this game? They might. They might not. Josh Hart did a lot of really good stuff. These are the difficult questions that you need to ask yourself with this player and with this roster. Because there is, again, people will push back on this, and that's fine. Because they'll tell me, Deuce is right there. Okay. I just don't view Deuce in that quite that light as like just such an automatic pivot that is, it's like just like clearly go to Deuce. I've never felt that way, and I don't feel that way now. I might be wrong. And the coach might be wrong, and he might lose his job over it. So, we'll find out. Did I want more double big time? Yeah, could have used a little bit more tonight. That's fair. I think the double big lineup actually makes it the easiest for Counts to get shots. So, yeah. Thanks, Huck. Drew P, what's going on, Drew? Starting unit still stinks. We need to rebound. The starting unit, I don't think it stinks. It wasn't good tonight. And actually, why am I guessing what the starting unit was tonight when I could just look up what the starting unit was tonight? Thanks to our friends at Pivot Fade. The Knicks starting lineup tonight in 24 minutes were a -7 in a game they lost by 6. So there you go. They were a -14.3 net rating. So -7 on the scoreboard, 51-44. -14.3 net rating. The defensive rating was very good, but that's just because, again, the Pistons were missing a ton of shots. 89.8 offensive rating for the starting unit. The other Knick lineup that played significant minutes was the starting unit with Mitchell Robinson in place of Karl-Anthony Towns. That unit actually was a plus 27.2, outscored Detroit 23-17 in 10 minutes and 42 seconds. Still a 104.8 offensive rating, which is not great, but much better. And then, you had a bunch of other smaller units here. But if you're looking at like maybe smaller combinations, like I'll look at 3-man combinations here. The first one where you get to a decent offensive rating is Brunson, Anunoby, and Robinson. Had a 115.4 offensive rating in 13 minutes. And actually it was Brunson, Anunoby, Robinson, and I think, hold on. Oh, sorry. I know I'm going on for a while about this, but I think this is actually okay. 4-man. Yeah, 13 minutes and 6 seconds. Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, and Robinson had an offensive rating of 13.4. Or 115.4. Sorry, 115.4. So you could do the math. I just read the lineup before that in 10 minutes and whatever seconds, Robinson, Anunoby, Bridges, Brunson, and Hart were only at 110 point whatever, or 107 point whatever. I think 107 or 104, whatever it was. It was a much lower number. So, yeah, in the remaining 2 minutes and change that you had Robinson, Anunoby, Bridges, and Brunson with a shooter, I'm assuming it was Deuce, the offense was pretty good. But again, we're talking about a 2 minute and change sample size. But it goes back to, again, what we've been talking about all year, needing to get more spacing on the floor. Is it worth the trade-off? A lot of people would say yes. So, yeah. Thanks, Drew. Jordan with another one. Thank you, Jordan. Sure, Bridges didn't finish strong, but he wasn't the reason they lost. The ball movement was non-existent, and nothing was done to fix it. The coach and JB have to be better. Yeah, I think that's as good an encapsulation of this game as I've heard. Thanks, Jordan. Gio, what's going on, Gio? Thank you for the generous contribution. Again, all the generosity tonight. We appreciate it. We got a couple here from Gio. The lowest common denominator of a fan will cite the refereeing, but I'm actually kind of proud of everybody here tonight that we haven't really talked about the refereeing, which I'm happy about. But in my opinion, we can only look inward after this loss. I hope the freaking Knicks are looking inward. They better. And Tibbs has to do what he has to do on the podium. That's fine. The Knicks better be looking inward. Knicks process was awful to watch. Unsure how much is in Tibbs JB's control versus a product of an awesome Detroit defense. I think it's a fair question to ask. And I think it's a little bit of everything. And I think it's also on the other players here. I think it's on not only Karl Anthony Towns, but on Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby and everybody on the court. Here's the thing. That, Jalen Brunson's the point guard. Jalen Brunson has the ball in his hands more than any player in the league, other than maybe Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So he gets the lion's share of the blame. But the whole, out-talented thing, implicit in that argument is that the Knicks' other players are pretty talented too. And it's not like their talent doesn't extend to the ability to be part of a cohesive offense as opposed to just getting spoon-fed by Jalen Brunson. Because that's extraordinarily unfair. I'm to be clear, Gio, this is not directed at you. It's not directed at anybody. But Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, all of you guys. Part of the reason the belief in this team was so high is because all those guys theoretically have skill sets and packages that where you don't need to rely on Jalen Brunson to generate offense for your team. And tonight, Mikal hit some shots. I thought Hart moved around off the ball a decent amount and got himself in situations where he could do some stuff. And OG on offense it just wasn't his night. But all those guys need to be better too. Everybody needs to be better. Thanks, Gio. And I got another one coming from you here. Maybe a hot take, but I thought this was shaping up to be a solid Mikal game. It was. Hold on, I'll come back to it. I liked his aggressiveness. Shame that one of the key 3-point attempts didn't fall. I said at halftime, I thought Bridges had an argument to be he was the best player in the game. Actually, I may have actually said going into the fourth quarter that I thought there was an argument that Bridges was the best Knick in the game. Now, was that a little bit over exuberant? Maybe. The defense probably didn't justify that statement, but I wondered. So, yeah, he is getting too much hate. And I said at the top he would get too much hate. We knew he would get too much hate, but, a lot of this shit's been pent up all year for a lot of fans. So, and I get it. I get it, to be clear. I get it. Thanks, Gio. Uptown Hoodie, what's going on, Uptown? Thank you for the generous contribution. These two games are consistent with our season since January. The offense is a slog. Cat should have an entire catalog of moves and counter moves by now. And guys look tired getting back on defense. The team is stuck. I don't know that I would say they're tired getting back on defense. What were the fast break points in this one? No. What's this? No, that's not it. Stats, team. Fast break points, 15-14. Neither team had a ton of fast break points. I know that's not the only thing you're talking about. I thought their defensive execution on a couple of plays was not there tonight. Somewhere between 5 and 10. Overall, let's say the Pistons hit the shots that they should have hit from 3, or even had just a moderately decent night from 3. Let's give them, what do you want to give them? 5 more threes? So that would have made them 11 for 27. What's 11 for 27? That sounds fair. That's 41%. So we don't even have to give them that many. Let's go 10 for 27. Let's give them 10 for 27. That gets them to 112 points. Guess what? If you play the Detroit Pistons and the Detroit Pistons score 112 points, you should win. So for me, it comes back to the first part, which is the offense is a slog. And yeah, should Cat have an entire catalog of moves and counter moves by now? Yeah, he should. But it's not about, when you'd say by now. By now as in he's in, whatever he is, year 9, year 10 of his career. We are picking nits on, again, a guy I said 2 nights ago, and I meant it. A brilliant offensive player. A brilliant offensive player. This is the only nit to pick on his offensive game, is the fact that he does not have, the sort of back to the basket arsenal of a Jokic or a Senjun or not even Embiid, because Embiid didn't even really do that stuff. But like I'm talking about Embiid like he's a retired player. Anyway, it's worth, I think there was just a tweet here. So Karl-Anthony Towns was asked, this from Ian Begley, about having 0 field goal attempts in the fourth quarter. He didn't look peeved. His answer was, it looks like he shook his head, shrugged his shoulders a little bit, and he said, just trying to have the game do what it does, just executing what we talked about. I thought we got some great shots, some great looks, especially when we fought back in that game. And that's why Karl-Anthony Towns is the consummate professional and a guy that, say whatever you want about his game, like, he's a guy you always want in your locker room. The thing I do want to say, in fairness, the Knicks scored 27 points in the fourth quarter, and Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson both missed multiple really good looks from 3. If they each hit one of those, and Jalen Brunson makes a free throw, by the way, we haven't talked about that. We're sitting here talking about a 34-point quarter instead of a 27-point quarter, and it's tough to complain about a 34-point quarter in any scenario. So, I completely agree the process is annoying and needs to be fixed moving forward and all the stuff. But, yeah. Anyway. Thanks, Uptown Hoodie. All right, we got a couple from Kento Cato here. Thank you, Kento. Outplayed in 7 of the 8 quarters. Again, not unfair. Totally. I would say kind of even in 3 of the quarters. Knicks outplayed them in, I would say, 2 of the quarters, and then the Knicks were outplayed in the other 3. So overall, they've been outplayed. We're a crazy pain run away from being down 0-2. Need one of those late Mikal threes. JB, good numbers. Subpar process. Cat needs to be more involved. Not sure what to do with Josh. I'm not sure what to do with Josh either. And I think implied in your comment there is the fact that it's not as easy as just saying, all right, Josh, sit on the bench, because I don't think it's that easy. Yeah, I mean, but look, we're a crazy pain runaway. We're, a Mikal 3 away from maybe being up 2-0. This is the playoffs. Go back to the Philly series. Go back to the threes that they hit at the end of that series. Go back to Josh Hart hitting all the threes that he hit in that series. You go back to, Hart hitting the 3 that he hit at the end of the Cleveland game. There's lots of these things, to quote former president of the Knicks, these things turn on a trifle. So I'm not going to sit here and feel bad that the Knicks are tied when, they haven't played their best ball. They have to play better. Another one from Kento here. Thank you again, Kento. Positive outlook. Even with all the bad officiating for 3 quarters and non-existent Cat OG offensive game, we almost won. Negative outlook. Arguably should be 0-2, and we're going to Detroit with a lot to fix and change. They got 2 days. And then after game 3, they got another 2 days. So I mean, a lot of adjustments, a lot of time for adjustments over the next 5 days overall, right? Right? It's 5 days, 6 days. What's today? Today's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 6 days. 2 games in 6 days. Lots of time to adjust and think about what you're going to do and how you're going to play it. And we are going to learn in case, because I think there was still some doubt, maybe a lot of doubt. We are going to learn what this team is made of. You got to get one of these. And frankly, I'm not even sure. I mean, I obviously I want them to get game 3 because I'd like them to get game 4 too. But if you're only going to get one, I'm not sure I really care which one they get. Because going back home for game 5, it's like at that point, just, got to win that. Thanks, Keto. Jason, what's going on, Jason? 84 games and they still have no idea what they want to do on either side of the ball. The offense ends up being Brunson save us. Terrible process. I actually disagree about the defense. I think they know what they want to do on defense. I have zero qualms. Not zero qualms. I have, like, if you told me this was the defense they're going to play through 2 games, I'd be very happy. And like, everybody's talking about process on offense. I think the execution has not always been great on defense in this series so far. I do think their process has been very good. Like, they've had some missteps when you play a quality offense, and like the Pistons are a quality enough offense. Like, you're going to have that stuff happen. I think they know what they want to do on defense. And I've actually, to me, what's the most impressive part for them is probably the defensive side of the ball. Not probably. It is, without question, the most impressive part. Not knowing what they want to do on offense, I think that is the gift and the curse of their talent. And I don't think it is something they have yet. I don't think it's a hump they have gotten over yet, to your point. Because when you're this offensively talented, it's almost like you have to force yourself to figure out, okay, what are we about? And how are we going to get there? And they haven't done a good enough job. Thanks, Jason. Oh, Jason Concepcion, my man. Shout out to 6 Trophies. If it's not one of your favorite podcasts, just listen and it will become one instantly. Zooming out. The issue is this team doesn't have consistent answers to any of the important questions that arise over the course of a season on offense or on defense. They're still searching 84 games in, and that's the hard truth. Again, I'm going to push back a little bit on the defensive part of it. I think it's funny because it's an interesting dichotomy here. Given their personnel, they should have more challenges on the defensive end because you're trying to cover up for these 2 poor defenders who play a ton of minutes. I think that process of figuring out how to do that has been a season-long process with ups and downs and fits and starts and good parts and bad parts. But I feel like where they have arrived at in the playoffs here with their defense, I know the Pistons should have scored more tonight. I know that. Like, it was the first thing I said out of the gate. Like, you got lucky that they couldn't hit the far side of a barn from 3. I also thought, like, there was just some utter brilliance from Cade Cunningham. And that was a big part of this game. And also, not that anyone wants to hear me quote Tom Thibodeau after this game, but Tibbs did say in the presser, and I completely agree with him, nobody rebounded tonight. Or I think he said the only person that rebounded tonight was Mitchell Robinson. And tonight you got do second chance points, 13 second chance points for the Pistons, in addition to a dozen points off of turnovers, which the Knicks usually typically take pretty good care of the ball. They didn't take good care of the ball tonight. So, like, half-court defense on, like, the initial possession, like, I'm like borderline impressed with where they have ended up now after 84 games. Offensively, you're 100% right. They are searching. And that is distressing and troubling. And it is an indictment on everybody involved, most especially the coach. Because, yes, the game tells you what to do. But if we're in game 84 and enough of your prominent players are still not hearing what the game is telling them to do against these really good defenses, that is a problem. And I don't know, is it a problem that will be solved by, changing up something within the offense, changing up the personnel, changing up the lineups, instilling more set stuff that it's not just what the game tells you to do. It's about, no, do this. Is it just a bad mix of players because they don't have, whether it's the fired away three-point shooter in Dante DiVincenzo or a secondary traditional shot creator or a guy who can create an advantage? I think all of these are very, very valid questions, and they will be questions that will come up, needless to say, in the offseason, both in terms of what they do with the head coach and what they do in terms of the roster. So, yeah. Okay. On that note, a quick word to hear from our friends at, yes, you know the words, shout out to Cornbread. My favorite thing to say on this podcast. If life has been a little crazy lately, or, you're a little down because your basketball team that you root for just continues to find new ways to punch you in the nuts, one thing that helps me unwind is Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies. If you're looking for a natural way to relieve aches and discomfort, and you know what? Maybe even give you a little bit of mental wellness, which I think everybody could use after this game, CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp are exactly what you're looking for. They're formulated to work with your body, not against it. You've heard me talk about Cornbread before because they do it the right way. They take only the best part of the hemp plant, which is the flower, for the purest and most potent CBD. And look, if you're someone after this game that has maybe a little discomfort, a little stress, a little sleeplessness, wouldn't you know it, those are the exact things that Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies helps relieve. Right now, Knicks Film School listeners can save 30% on their first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use code KFS at checkout. Again, that is Cornbread Hemp, cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use code KFS at checkout. Who amongst us? Okay. Jeffrey Glenn. What's going on, Jeffrey? What did you think of the officiating? We definitely did not play our best, but it seemed one-sided most of the game until 6 minutes left. I thought that the Knicks did not respond to the officiating in a way that was most productive to them. I thought the whistle was more in favor of the Pistons. I thought the way that the Pistons approached this game, which was the Jerry Sloan philosophy of like, well, they can't call everything, was absolutely the right way to approach it. Put the onus on the officials to basically call everything or call nothing. And for the majority of the first half and the third quarter even, they called nothing. But it was a physical style of play. There were not really overt fouls. It was a physicality. It was a physical approach that officials are either going to call or they are not going to call. On this night, they did not call it for the vast majority of the time. Where there were a couple of specific misses, Hart got fouled on the three-point attempt. They could have called that. They missed it. There were a couple other ones that may have been a little bit more obvious than others. But the Knicks fouls that were called, I thought, by contrast, again, not exclusively, but the majority of them were maybe more overt. And so it made it easier for the officials to call the game in the one-sided way they were calling it, which is not to say that it was not one-sided for the vast majority of the game. So you want to know what I think about the officials? That's what I think about the officials. Didn't love it. It's not what I'm going to be thinking about when I think back to this game. Thanks, Jeff. Haitian Ferg, what's going on, Haitian? Cat's lack of assertiveness on offense hurts JB's process. Chewing up clock, waiting for Cat to set screens or game position hurts. Mikal, still no free throws. Yeah, Haitian, like me and you always tend to see eye to eye on this stuff, and I think I'm more with you than where the majority of the conversation has been. Obviously, there's multiple parties at fault here. Cat can take some time to get into this stuff. And your word there, gain position. The position is so key because if you are going to get a deep post touch, well, how are you going to do that? You got to get down there and you got to position yourself. Like, someone's going to have to explain to me the off-ball screening action or any off-ball action for that matter. That, like, okay, Tobias Harris is guarding Karl-Anthony Towns. What is going to make it easier? So you could certainly screen off-ball for Cat to get on the move into the post and try to hit Cat on the run. That's probably harder than it seems, especially since who you're going to screen with. You're going to screen with probably somebody like, you're going to screen with a guard? No, because Tobias Harris is probably just going to beat that screen. Like, all right, you could do that. Maybe try more of that. I think that's fair. But again, what are we talking about here? We're talking about getting him just post-up opportunities, right? That's about positioning. And now the spacing has a lot to do with it. So there's your get Josh Hart off the floor, get the center off the, the center either has to guard Towns or the center has to guard OG or someone else. That's a part of it too. But I will say it again. And I love Karl-Anthony Towns and I enjoy him as a player. I love him as to the extent you can love somebody you've never met. I really seem to like him as a person. I've been a big fan of his season. I want him to be a Knick for a long time, even though I don't know if it's a path to a championship. I genuinely like watching him. He needs to be more of a participant in his own resuscitation. Thanks, Haitian. A couple more from Haitian here. Mikal tried and failed. I can live with that. Cat didn't try. Cat was soft tonight and lost us the game. If Mikal hits those threes, we'd still be mad at Cat. Man, I think you may be going a little bit too far there. Was Cat soft? Let's flip the phrasing. Could Cat have been more physical? Yes. Did Cat's lack of physicality lose them the game? I think it's one of several factors. It's one of several factors. And I think in terms of like, why did Cat not get more quality shots on goal? His own lack of physicality is certainly among the reasons. I don't know after this game would I put it as the number one reason. But again, I would obviously want to go back and rewatch the thing. And then one more from Haitian here. And thank you very much for the generosity, Haitian. I always appreciate you. And it's not just because we always are on the same page. When Cat moves, the ball moves. His lack of aggression makes 5-on-3 defense. That's what we watched tonight. No screens, no fight in the post, just zero. Yeah, no, I mean the offense is best generally when everybody's on the move, and that's why you want Mikal out there. Mikal moves around a lot. Hart does a good job moving around. Yeah, Cat can move more. Cat can move more. I listen, I appreciate you taking this position because a lot of people, nobody else is. And I think there's enough validity to it for sure that it at least deserves to be part of the conversation. And again, I think like there's a lot of culprits at play here. It's never just on one guy or on one coach for that matter. You win as a team and you lose as a team. Thanks, Station. Appreciate you. Oscar with another one. Please, no more Mitch Hart pairing. The spacing is bad. Yeah, I was surprised by that too. I like the fact that in game one, I don't think Hart and Mitch played a single minute together. I kind of wanted to see a repeat of that. I will just say, for whatever it is worth, I have no idea what this is going to reveal, but I'll look it up right now. When Mitch and Hart were on the floor together in this game, they were on the floor for 12 minutes together. The Knicks actually, to their credit, in 12 minutes and 12 seconds, outscored Detroit 24-20 in that time. They had an offensive rating of 100 and a defensive rating of 80. Now, an offensive rating of 100 is obviously atrocious. It's very bad. But I also think it's fair to look at that defensive rating of 80 and give a little credit to the fact that Josh Hart remained in the game for that time. How much credit? I don't know. But in general, like you, would I like to see not as much of that? Yes. Freeway Hustler 21. What's going on, Freeway? What is this nonsense? Detroit Pistons on Twitter. Tibbs should have put in Cam instead of Deuce. Deuce is not playing well and hasn't been for a while. This is the playoffs. F player loyalty. It's money time. I thought Deuce played a pretty good game. Was it a great game? No. I thought he played okay. Got lucky on one shot. His shot in general has not been good for a while. Could you have put in Cam? Could you have put in Landry? It's all valid. Listen, when you lose a game like this, you second guess a whole lot of things, including this. Thanks, Freeway Hustler. Gerson Rodriguez with another one. Thank you again for the generosity, Gerson. And I'll just repeat again. Thanks, everybody, for watching, chiming in, the whole thing. JB is the point guard. For God's sakes. He needs to orchestrate. Last year was Julius. This year it's Cat. Next year, maybe Giannis. When are we going to hold JB accountable? Is this a cult? Gerson, look, I don't want to get on you too hard here. I would like to think that here at Knicks Film School, we do a pretty good job of holding Jalen Brunson accountable. All the credit in the world to DJ and Benji, who break down the film. And I know just from Benji's grade books, there's been, and like their conversations and things they put out, there's been a lot of times where they've been very critical of his process and also calling him out on the defensive end as being arguably, maybe inarguably, a bigger problem for this team defensively than Karl Anthony Towns. And I know I have said many times, because I am a big numbers guy and I believe in data over a large sample size, I know many times I have cited the fact that defensively, this is the same team whether Karl Anthony Towns plays or whether he doesn't. With Jalen Brunson, that is not the case. They are much, much better defensively when Jalen Brunson is off the court. All that being said, the notion that Jalen Brunson is not like the solution, let alone part of the solution, I want to be very clear, Gerson. And if you find this to be a controversial statement, then I don't know what to tell you. This organization is nowhere without Jalen Brunson. Nowhere. Like, no man's land. Nothing else matters if he ain't here. Okay? Like, unless you're telling me that you're going to trade him for SGA or, Jokic. The Jokic guy is pretty good. Anthony Edwards, he's on the come up. Guy's going to be the best American player in the league for probably a few years. And there's like a couple other guys you talk about, but like when you get one of those guys, I'm not saying you can't be honest about the imperfections. I'm not saying you can't be honest when they have a subpar game. We've been I said it in the intro, like that. I know what the stats say. I know what the numbers are. Like, he hasn't been as good as Cade Cunningham at all in this series. And I believe that. To go where you're going with this, I mean, that's just, there's just no justification for it. Sorry. Jessica, what's going on, Jessica? How you doing? Tibbs should have thrown on one of Cat's jerseys like a muumuu and ran out on the court, not to shoot, but to yell at them closer. Why didn't he? Very fair. Thanks, Jess. If Tibbs doesn't eat an entire pizza during the fourth, does he even want to win? At least it's an adjustment that would be fun to watch. # fire Tibbs. Yeah. No, I mean, look, I meant it what I said before. You win as a team, you lose as a team. Tibbs deserves, a big, I don't know how big, but he deserves blame for the loss, and he deserves blame for where this team is at after 84 games. Like a lot, like I may quibble with the tenor of the criticism and some of the ferocity of the specific criticisms. The general overall sentiment on Tibbs this year, I think fairly, is that he maybe this has not been his best year. I don't think that's controversial. And maybe there were some things that he could have done that he did not do to make it so that things were better along the way and maybe better now. And then I could sit here and I could say all the other things that I'm going to say, which is that doesn't mean he's a bad coach, doesn't mean he's done a terrible job, doesn't mean he's an idiot, it doesn't mean that anything he could have done necessarily would have won them the game tonight. Yeah. So there you go. Thanks, Jessica. I could use a whole pizza, by the way. Adam Boyajay, I hope I got that right. Don't the Knicks ultimately just need more shooting, especially from three? Brunson has to make so many tough shots. They do need more shooting. They need someone who hunts threes. They need Dante DiVincenzo or someone who is a lot like Dante DiVincenzo. Unfortunately, those players are kind of hard to find, especially ones that could defend. And Dante DiVincenzo defended well enough to justify his existence on the court for the minutes that he played. I cannot think of, and I said this in my praise of DiVincenzo last year, like how many times did you watch DiVincenzo and be like, man, they really can't survive defensively with him out there right now. They're just too small or too whatever. No, you never thought that. You never thought it. He never made you think it. Those players are hard to find. And there's a reason why, and I know the money had a lot to do with it, but there's a reason why the Wolves were not going to make that trade unless DiVincenzo was in it. So that's what they're missing. Did they have a great opportunity to replace that after the Towns trade? No. How much of a priority will it be to replace that this summer? I think that remains to be seen. And I think I haven't even started to think about my top 5 questions for the summer article that I'm going to write yet, but shit, maybe I should start thinking about it because we're 3 losses away from that. So, yeah. Thanks, Adam. Dennis D. Sabata. What's going on, Dennis? Can't be playing from behind the whole game and then for the amount of firsts given up. 25 needs to hit that open 3. Also, Cat disappeared in the 4th. Missed opportunity. I agree with you. It was a missed opportunity, Dennis. You got the game tied. You know, you had a tie ball game in your building. And by the way, you know, Schroeder hits that three to make it 97-94. That was with, I think, 4 seconds on the clock. Because the Hart dunk came with 1:15 to go. The Schroeder three went down with 55.1 to go. So about 19 seconds had passed off the clock at that moment. Like, Brunson has to step up there. Here, do you want some criticism of Brunson? Here's some criticism of Brunson. And we said it at the time, and I think we said it in the monologue. If we didn't, I'll say it now. Brunson has to step up. Brunson has to step up for that contest. You cannot give him a shot with that level of comfort. You just can't do it. You know? And they had their shots after that. And couldn't make them. Okay. Thank you, Dennis. And then we got 2 from Sam Garcia's dad. But I'm going to watch the last 7 seconds of this. Oh, my goodness. I'm watching the end of the Nuggets game. Sorry. And the Nuggets lose by 3. Tough loss. Tough loss. Man. I'm happy I got to stay here and talk to y'all for the last 2 hours, 15 minutes, but that was one hell of a ball game. Anyway, Ray, what's going on, Ray? More talent doesn't mean more success. Last year's Knicks are 2-0 in this series. Just my humble opinion. Cat was more of a problem tonight than anyone else. Hashtag Knicks in 5. I hope you're right. And Sam Garcia's dad with another one. If you are the self-proclaimed best shooting big man ever, you can't take no shots in the fourth. Question. Cat needs to demand the ball. Oh, in the fourth quarter. Cat needs to demand the ball. Do not go gentle into the good night, Cat. So we have some more criticism against Cat. I think it's fair. I think it's warranted to have a lot of, again, the blame has to go around. I want to go back and I recorded the game. I want to go back and I want to, for some newsletter that I'm going to write this week, go back and look at how many touches did Cat actually get in the fourth. Now, to your point, you could go demand the ball. You could get your ass into the post and make it so that your teammates have no choice but to throw you the ball if you're willing to put in the work and get down there and back that little guy down. How many times did he do that? Did he do it at all? But again, and I'm coming off like a Cat hater, and I don't want to, but like, the thing about the best shooting big man ever comment that I always struck me as like a little funky isn't that he proclaimed himself to be the best of something at all time, because I actually think he's not wrong. He is the best big true center, best shooting center of all time. That's what he chose to brag about at that moment, which says a lot about Cat and how he wants to play and how he sees himself as an offensive force. And what is that? I can shoot threes. If you give me the threes, I'm going to take the threes. I'm going to make them. And if you play up on me, I'm going to drive. I'm going to drive right past you, and I'm going to score more often than not. Nowhere in that equation is I'm going to get my big ass and put it to work, you know, and back down. Again, we are nitpicking. We are quibbling with a unfathomably talented offensive basketball player. He's not a perfect offensive basketball player. And that's what it comes down to. And neither, by the way, is Jalen Brunson, to be abundantly clear. I don't know if it came off like I was implying he was, because he's not. Thanks, Ray. Gerson Rodriguez. What's going on, Gerson? With another one. Can't wait to see Giannis calling out JB for not passing the ball next year. Giannis doesn't hold on ball huggers. Be a good problem to have, Gerson. Be a good problem to have. Russ Guberman. What's going on, Russ? Hey, John. All season, I've been on Not the Fire Tibbs team, but the Leon Panicked team. We can't handle young athletic teams because of personnel. I mean, I said what I already had to say about the defensive performance tonight and generally in the series. If you want to flip the conversation to how the Pistons' youth and athleticism impacted, or like, is that why the Knicks struggled to score? I mean, generally, young teams don't defend, but this team defends very well. So let's go back to your criticism, which is the Knicks should have either gotten younger and more athletic themselves, or put themselves in a better position to counter younger and more athletic teams. I think they were counting on the overall skill level of the team, of the roster, to make it so that they would still be able to win those battles. Like, the thing with athleticism, like, yeah, athleticism certainly matters, but like, it's certainly not the be all end all, or it shouldn't be the be all end all. I'm struggling with this because I think, like, I gave you shit for, I think, more like the way you phrased it earlier in the year, and because earlier in the year, I didn't think there were as many signs of that. I think, if anything, there's more signs of it now. I think there's some validity to the concept of, like, are they a little too slow in general? But then I go back to, like, all right, it's the Brunson and Cat Foundation. If you're putting that aside as a given, which I am for the purposes of this discussion, then what else are you going to swap out? I mean, you want to put Dyson Daniels in place of Mikal Bridges. That probably look pretty good right about now, but that obviously that was not an option, unfortunately. And then on the offensive end, do they need more athleticism on offense, or ways to beat athleticism on offense? I think shooting's a way to do it, but I just said what I said about DiVincenzo and how much they miss that kind of player. Do they need, like, young athletic? Do they need, like, Jaden Ivey, who's obviously on the sidelines for Detroit right now? I don't know. It's a generalization that's not an unfair generalization, but because it is a generalization, I can't sit here and be like, well, yes, and this is the player that they need, and that, it's like this stuff all comes down to the specifics of the players you're talking about. So I don't know. Thanks, Russ. Dave Lee, what's going on, Dave? I've been predicting a first-round exit, and unfortunately, there's not been much to prove me wrong. I mean, you might be right. Listen, there's smart people out there. Sam Vecini, who Andrew, does work on his pod, Game Theory podcast. I think he predicted Detroit in 7. And honestly, if you were an impartial observer and you watch these first 2 games, I don't think Detroit in 7 is a terrible pick. Now, are they going to come into Madison Square Garden and beat the Knicks in Game 7? That would be, I think if anything, I mean, for Detroit in 6, what would have to happen there? I mean, I guess just Detroit wins the rest of their home games. Is that crazy? No, we'll find out next week, right? Thanks, Dave. I'm not going there for what it's worth. I still think the Knicks win the series, and I'm actually sticking with my original pick of Knicks at 6. OG team. Should we sit Brunson in the corner the first 5 minutes of the next game just to see how the team flows before he should start making an imprint? We got another one from OG team here, so I'll read that and then comment. Missed those I-Heart cut passes and Devo driving. Yeah, that was special stuff. It was a joy to watch that team on offense, last year's team. For as much as it was not always productive, it was It was a nice offense to watch. But you know what else I miss? I miss watching the offense for the first couple months of the season. And what's the difference between now and then? I think Josh Hart's a big part of it. Josh Hart was automatic from 2-point range for a couple months. And he was just playing with such confidence. Such confidence. And they haven't had that. You know? I think they were shooting more threes. They were generating more threes. Bridges certainly shot more threes. Not tonight. He shot a ton, I know. But as far as parking Brunson in the corner, no. I don't think that's the answer. Getting Brunson, trying to get him more involved with some off-ball stuff, I think is smart. But, yeah. Thanks, OG team. Ray Danger, what's going on, Ray? I still think the Knicks win this series, but after watching these two games, I have no hope of a Cinderella run against Boston or Cleveland. I mean, I didn't see anything. There has not been anything that I've seen this season that made me think that they would beat Boston or Cleveland. Well, Cleveland after we realized what Cleveland became, but certainly Boston in a 7-game series. I didn't think that after game 1. I didn't think that after... I thought they played a really good game against Boston the last week of the regular season. Didn't think it when they were, one of the best offenses of all time, first couple months of the season. Never thought that. Still don't think it. I do think, however, if this becomes a 7-game series or even a 6-game series as opposed to a 4 or 5-game series, and they go into Boston without maybe as much rest as they would have liked to, especially if Boston could take care of Orlando quickly, I think, I'll wonder if it factored in. Thanks, Roy. Kevin Danishevsky with another one. Some folk deserve Tony Douglas, Shane Larkin. Jeez. Yeah. Well, what can you say? People are going to have their opinions. Thanks, Kev. Ellie Usil. What's going on, Ellie Usil? Thank you for the contribution. I know you love the coach, but it's time. Been great for us. Respect to Detroit, but the talent on this team deserves more. Cam saved us from being 0-2. That's the story after 2 games. He will take the fall. If they lose the series, he's going to take the fall. I think he'll probably not be back even if they win the series. I don't think it's crazy at all that it's time for a change. I won't mind a change. My biggest, I've said it many times, and I know nobody cares. I'll say it again. My issue has always been with the tone and the general nature of the conversation as it pertains to the coach and coaching in general, and the fact that because, I don't want to generalize, just the dismissiveness of why he is as successful as he has been, not only in this job, but throughout his NBA career, as meaningless. And, Joe Schmo could sit and pull up some on-off data and think that, clearly they know better, or clearly Tibbs is wrong, or, but again, that pertains to the dialogue around all NBA coaches. It's not even a Tibbs thing. So yeah, that's always been my thing. But sitting here right now, do I think it's probably time, or it might be time? Maybe, maybe. I can't say that definitively, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I'm sorry, but you might be right. OG team with another one. Cat not having a face-up mid-range game is annoying. He can easily shoot over the small wings on him since he's considered the best shooting big. Yeah. it's again, whether it's the short mid-rangers to shoot over these guys, like kind of like the Dirk shots, or backing them down. Like either one, be fine. Thanks, OG. Asha Henman, what's going on, Asha? Imagine if they put the effort on the last 5 minutes of the third quarter. Hubris versus coaching, because this is the more talented team. Hart's downside can be neutralized. So I mean, I thought you were going a different direction. I thought you were saying, like, imagine if they put in the effort throughout this game that they put in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. But there was stuff they could have done that they didn't do. They are the more talented team. Hubris might have a little bit to do with it. Coaching has to do with it. I think Hart's downside can be neutralized more. It's been a struggle all year. You know? It's all the same stuff. It's all the same stuff we've talked about. Which says a lot. Says a lot. But then, look, a team shows you who they are. That's the thing about 82 games. It's a lot of games, but you know who a team is after 82 games. You have pretty good sense. You know, and so far through 2 games of the playoffs, I don't think any of us feel like we're watching a different team than the team we watched over 82 games. Thanks, Sasha. Bill Peterfriend with another one. Thank you very much, Bill, for the generosity. Truly appreciate you. There was not enough ball movement. They didn't take advantage of Hardaway on McCall and Harris on Cat. That's on Jalen Brunson. He worked too hard for his points. Ball movement early in the first was non-existent. Yeah, and a lot of that is also taking time to get the ball up. You know, that, like, if you want to be critical of, like, against most defenses, you could bring the ball up slowly and then, you know, you create your advantage and you go from there and it doesn't matter. But I think if you're talking about this stuff and, like, really, really making it more of a point to move the ball and seeing what you could generate out of it, I think bringing the ball up faster probably helps. Now, does that play into the type of game the Pistons want to play? Because they definitely want to play a faster game. Maybe. And that's, again, part of all of these are conundrums. There's pluses and minuses that come with anything. I think, you know, Bridges took 18 shots tonight. I think looking at that number, it's fair to say that they tried to take advantage of McCall's matchups. Did they do it as well as they could have done it? Probably not. We talked about the Cat Harris thing a lot. So, yeah. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate you. Jonathan Hernandez. What's going on, Jonathan? Might sound crazy, but bench Hart, start Precious. That has to be a troll comment. Yes, it does sound crazy. I don't want Precious Achiuwa anywhere near this series. Thank you. Abe, how have we not seen Hart and Cat inverse pick and rolls? Easy, because you just switch it. Given who is guarding those guys. Like, the point of any pick and roll is just to generate an advantage or get someone going downhill. And I think with those two, so you're talking about Hart initiating and then, Cat initiating and Hart sets the screen. I think you're making sure you cover Cat over the top, and then you're obviously dropping that. Could it still generate more stuff? Sure. Cat has never been like, he got really good at, like, throwing lobs to Rudy. He's a really good standstill passer. When you're talking about inverted pick and rolls, I think that's more guys who are comfortable making plays with the ball in their hands on the move. And I don't think Cat has shown himself to be able to do that. He passes less on the move than any player in the league. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at there. War, what's going on, War? I love JB, but he really kills momentum by pounding the ball all the way up the court, looking for the foul, taking real unnecessary tough shots. Well, yeah, a lot of tough comments against JB tonight. I would just strongly encourage anybody who had an issue with how Jalen Brunson played tonight, or Jalen Brunson generally, to take a deep breath and realize why you love JB, if that is indeed true. I tend to, whenever I get a comment, it's usually about the coach, but it could be about other players, that starts with, I love this person, but I often wonder, like, do they actually really love this person? You know, but JB's done a lot of good. He'll do a lot more that's good. And I'll leave it at that. Okay. I just saw JB saying during the press conference, this is from Gerson, when asked about Cat didn't get more touches in the fourth quarter. Well, there's only one ball. That says it all. Good night. And until next season. All right. Well, sorry to say, Gerson, you won't be missed. Thank you for the contribution. Appreciate the generosity. I don't know if that's actually a real quote. I don't tend to trust everything I see on the internet. I also would like to see the context if it was a real quote. Look, it doesn't say it all. That's the thing. It doesn't say it all. Yeah, there's one ball, but it doesn't say it all. And that's because I'll repeat what I said earlier. These games unfold in a manner that leave it very easy for us talking afterwards to overgeneralize and oversimplify the events that unfolded. It is never that easy. And it is never as simple as some fans want to make it out to be. If you have a problem with Jalen Brunson, then I got bad news for you, dude. With the good night and until next season, Jalen Brunson ain't going anywhere. You know? So I don't know if you should go get a new team, or I don't know what to tell you to do. But I know this. Jalen Brunson, not the best game tonight. There is absolutely no one in the league that I want leading the Knicks into battle in Detroit than my guy. Has full faith from me, and I think full faith from any real fan that's out there. So, yeah. Thanks, Gerson. Appreciate the contribution. And that is it for us tonight at the Knicks Film School Postgame Show, presented by our wonderful presenting sponsor, Fanatics Sportsbook. You saw we did pretty well on the betting and sweating. I also did pretty well. I actually went in and bet I know my betting and sweating pick was Jalen Brunson 32 points or more. I actually bet 35 or more because the got a little bit more juice on that one. And I'm very happy I bet it. I'm a little annoyed that the final score will be within 5 points one way or the other. Bet did not hit based on those last Duran free throws, and obviously several Knicks misses down the stretch. So that was annoying to lose that. But yeah, shout out to Fanatics Sportsbook. They've been an awesome partner so far. Looking forward to lots more stuff with them. Shout out to Mark on the ones and twos tonight. Thanks for tuning in, obviously. Like the video, subscribe, the whole thing. I am back tomorrow. I got Mark Campbell of Low Man Help coming on at 11:30. Excited to talk to him. So that episode will post at some point, probably tomorrow, if not like Wednesday morning. And then we got Benji and DJ coming up on X's and O's on Wednesday. And then we're back at it with Game 3 on Thursday. I'll be on the post game for that. Hopefully talking about a better outcome, and we could put this one behind us. But until then, everybody take care, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out.